Welcome to Anything is Possible, the Boston Celtics podcast here on the Athletic Podcast Network. I'm your host, Sam Jam Packard, professional sports fan, and I am joined, as always, by the kid, the god, the legend himself, beat reporter from The Athletic, Jay King, ladies and gentlemen, and we are coming to you on a Sunday night after the Brooklyn Nets completely wax the Boston Celtics 141 to 126.
141?
Yeah, this was pretty much over after the second quarter. It was very cool to be back in the Garden with 17,000 fans. Very competitive first quarter. Celtics were up. And then about 20 seconds in, the Nets took a lead and never looked back. They scored 40 points in the second quarter. Kevin Durant was ridiculous. Kyrie Irving was absolutely ridiculous. James Harden didn't really do much, but he didn't really have to. Oh, he did have 18 assists. There was just nothing the Celtics could do in a night they didn't have Kemba Walker, no Robert Williams. Just absolutely waxed from the second quarter on.
Yeah, that was as special a shooting performance as you'll probably ever see a team put on, because it wasn't like they were shooting open shots. Like Kyrie was shooting people's faces off. Kevin Durant was shooting people's faces off. James Harden was setting up the guys who were shooting people's faces off. And then in the second quarter, just dusted the Celtics himself for a stretch. When they reached that level, especially considering all the injuries for Boston, with Jaylen Brown out, Kemba Walker out, Robert Williams out, the Celtics were not going to reach that level. They would have had to been just perfect to even have a chance, and they weren't that. So it was, but really, I mean, the Nets just reached a level that was almost untouchable. They were ridiculous from the start. Kyrie had a little spice to his game in front of a nearly full crowd in Boston for the first time since he left. Durant was just absurd. Like, some of the shots Durant hit were just, what are you going to do about it?
He doesn't miss. Like, it's rare when he does miss, and he's just absolutely unstoppable. And like the Celtics did a pretty good job in the first quarter. I mean, Jason Tatum scored 14 points. And then the Nets employed this strategy, which I don't know why they haven't been doing it the entire series, or why they didn't do it in Game 3, but is just make someone not named Jason Tatum score. And it worked out really well for them in the second quarter. Jason Tatum had 0 points. And like, I don't know what you do with the Celtics. Like, Jason Tatum had 3 assists in that quarter. I think it felt like he found Romeo Langford for wide open threes at least 4 times in the corner. Romeo, I mean, that's just not his game, but he did knock him down. He also tried Semi Ojeleye got some minutes. Grant Williams, like, Celtics were 4 for 14 in that second quarter. They just don't, like, the supporting cast around Tatum, even though he made like the right play, the Nets were throwing as many as it felt like 3 guys at him, and he made the right play. They just didn't have nearly enough shooting around him to even kind of stay with the Nets when they're just scoring 40 points in a quarter and absolutely going off.
Yeah, the Celtics aren't deep in the best of times. And so when they're out 3 starters, there was a lineup. It was Grant Williams, Semi Ojeleye, and Jabari Parker. If the Celtics had been healthy in this series, none of those guys would have seen the court probably at all. And Romeo Langford was in the starting lineup. He probably wouldn't have been in the lineup at all either, like in the rotation at all either. So it was just, they're overmatched to begin with. And then when they go deep into the bench, like, Tatum was making good reads. He was finding Romeo Langford. He was finding guys. But he's finding non-shooters. And that just frees up the Nets to double him, to pressure him, to do all that stuff. And they were a lot better at doing that to Tatum. He still had 40 points. Like,
yeah, he was still very impressive.
He was still really freaking good. But like, you have to score at such a high level to keep pace with the Nets when they're just normal. And then when they're like that, when all 3 guys have it going, good luck.
I mean, the
Good luck.
Celtics tried like running the 2-3 zone out there. They tried like just switching up the defense, but in order to beat the Nets, you basically can't send two to the ball at all because they're just so good at passing that that's just going to end up in a Joe Harris 3. So you have to play Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant all one-on-one and hope that they miss. And Kyrie just didn't miss tonight. I don't know. Like, he hit 6 threes. It felt like 5 of them were like absolutely contested. Durant, we've talked about his shot making, but then this is what makes the Nets so unfair is that just like James Harden didn't do that much in the first quarter, and he's just able to take over in that second quarter where like to start he played like the way they work their rotations out. It's like the start of the second quarter is James Harden's quarter. You can't and the Celtics are switching 1 through 5. We've just talked about how you can't really send 2 to the ball, so it's like playing normal drop coverage or playing like trying to hedge or blitz. It's just like they're going to pass out of it. So you kind of have to switch everything. And then you're just hoping that Grant Williams and Semi Ojeleye, I thought Romeo Langford did a pretty decent job on trying to cover those guys tonight. But it's just like you can't expect him to step in front of James Harden or be in front of him the entire time. He's an MVP. Kevin Durant's an MVP. And Kyrie Irving's one of the most talented scorers we've ever seen. It's just, I don't know what, like, it just makes the Game 3 win. Can we just go back and talk about the Game 3 win? Because it makes it that much more impressive that they were able to pull that off given the Nets roster.
Yeah, the Nets seem to have an energy to them that they wanted to just end the series. And the Celtics had an awesome start. Like, the crowd was crazy. Tatum had 14 points in the first quarter, I believe, including 12 over the first 7 minutes. He was drawing contact, getting to the free throw line. Marcus Smart was fantastic at the start. But then, Tatum heads to the bench with 5 minutes left in the first quarter. It's 27-20. Marcus Smart picks up his second foul, and the Celtics, like, they put Tatum back in 30 seconds later.
30 seconds later, yeah.
They knew they could not afford to keep him on the bench. And then Smart's foul trouble complicated things too, because
Jabari Parker came in and he immediately got blown by Kevin Durant, just like the instant first possession. But yeah, it did complicate things because he just had to go a little bit deeper on that bench, and it just did not work out.
Normally, you'd let him play with 2 and be fine with it, but they've got James Harden, they've got Kevin Durant, like they've got guys who are gonna force you into situations where you might foul a lot. So playing with foul trouble against them is very different than playing with foul trouble against most teams where you can maybe hide a guy where, maybe you're not going to be in situations where you're tempted to foul or could foul as often. So that was part of it. But, I mean, the Celtics had Romeo Langford and Jabari Parker and Semi Ojeleye and Aaron Nesmith playing big minutes against
Peyton Pritchard as well.
Against superstars and superstars who were playing like superstars. I thought, I mean, and that's a difference. Like the Nets were sometimes doubling Tatum on the catch because the Nets have so much firepower. The Celtics can't really double. They have so much shooting and they have all these guys who can make plays. And so the Celtics they have guys on islands. And they could have made things a little tougher. Like some of the shots, I think, especially by Kyrie and Durant, like you could have been a little more in their airspace. But it's like you
play up on Kyrie
against some of the best isolation players on the planet.
You play up on them, and then they blow right past you. Like Kyrie knocked down some shots that were just like solid defense, hand in his face, but he knocked it down. And we saw what happened in the second half when you like try to put 2 to the ball, where Bruce Brown just basically had 12 easy baskets because you're sending 2 at Harden. Like there really is just no answer to stopping the Nets. It's going to be very interesting when the Nets and Bucks face off in the next round, where the Bucks.
You're already conceding the series.
I feel like we conceded the series before the series even started.
Yeah,
I'm just riding high out the Game 3 victory, but it's going to be interesting with the Bucks to have Giannis, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, like maybe guys who can really like step up and play them one-on-one. Is there anything we can like take away from the second half? Like I thought Nesmith and Peyton Pritchard like played pretty well in their first kind of extended playoff minutes. It was a joke of a game at that point,
Yeah,
but like
they
I was
stopped playing
surprised to see
defense.
the Nets. They stopped playing defense, but they kept their big three in for basically the entire game. And then Tatum, like the Celtics didn't give up, but they were just entirely outmatched for the entire game.
Yeah. And I mean, look how much talent they had injured. Robert Williams, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown.
That was my biggest thought during the game was like, man, this would be a lot cooler of a series if Jaylen Brown was still playing.
Yeah,
like,
it could have been a fun series. Could have been a lot of offensive firepower on both teams. Celtics, I think they would have scored a ton of points if they had everybody healthy. But that's just not to be. Kemba Walker, poor guy. Like, I had a lot of fans in my Twitter mentions saying, he's a max contract guy, not on the court, yada, yada, yada. That guy worked all season so that he'd be healthy for these moments. And it's just too freaking bad that he's not. And like he worked like hell to try to do that, to try to recover. And I honestly, like, I felt for him because he was waiting for moments like this. Like, that's why he signed in Boston, for moments like this when he had the home crowd going crazy. And I know fans don't want to hear that because he's been injured and stuff like that, but it's just bad luck. And
it really
it's not like he's a guy who doesn't work. He's been working the whole time trying to get that knee strengthened. And, he got the bone bruise and some of the old issues flared up again. So just tough. But it also goes to show, like, Celtics have questions about Kemba Walker moving forward for sure.
They definitely do. And like his absence, I think you felt it tonight, just talking about how deep Brad's rotations had to go just to find players to get minutes. Like, I think even though Kemba didn't put up big stats in game 3, he still took up 30 minutes of playing time.
And he's someone they need to guard.
Yeah, he's a threat on offense where you like actually have to worry about him, and it's just like a little bit more difficult to throw that much attention to Jason Tatum. Other than that, I thought Fournier knocked down some shots, but he kind of got exposed on defense. He's not actually a defensive. He's not the greatest defender, but he's a bit of a liability, but I think he can get by in some moments. But he's your third most talented player on the court tonight, and that's just tough for the Celtics.
And that's the thing, too. If he's coming off the bench, it's different. Like, it's just totally different experience for him, different coverage that they have on him, different defensive assignments probably for him, at least during some of his minutes. And the Celtics, they're switching everything. And it's like Tristan Thompson is out on Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and James Harden. And Fournier, who you'd rather not have on one of those guys, is doing it too. And I think, like, if the Celtics had been fully healthy with Smart, Jaylen, and Tatum, the Nets would at least feel those guys when they were switching. But there are just too many guys that the Nets don't feel. And you could see that. They were, especially Durant was just special. I mean, Kyrie was going for the kill, but
Kyrie
Durant,
wasn't even that efficient tonight. But Durant, you're right, was 11 for 24 is
with a whole bunch of free throws,
both
and 3 balls.
Yeah, no, he was good. He was good. I'm not going to say that.
He scored 39 points on 24 field goal attempts. That's
he had 11 free throws, 11 from the line. Durant was 11 for 11 from line. Harden missed a free throw in the final minute. So it was the only missed free throw of the game for the Nets, where they went 29 for 30. It was just a absolute offensive performance from them. And unfortunately, because some guy in the stands had to go and be a dickhead, the game will probably get remembered more for some guy throwing a water bottle at Kyrie Irving. Just a shitty scumbag move. Apparently he was arrested, but just fuck that guy. Like, that's just so unnecessary, and just puts a cloud over the entire game and
the entire city.
Yeah, it's
the entire city. It makes all of Boston look bad when you do something like that. So just unacceptable, and stuff like that is happening everywhere. The NBA fans have come back, and it's obviously it's just one in a like, what is it, 4 or 5 different incidents now. But you just don't do dumb shit. Don't be like, scream your ass off. Keep it. Even they were chanting "fuck you, Kyrie." Like, even that I feel like is inbounds.
I think that's inbounds. I think it's just childish, and it's also like living rent free. Like Kyrie Irving lives rent free in all Celtics fans' head. When you're cheering about Kyrie when Jason Tatum is taking free throws, it's just like ridiculous. Like, I'm fine booing him every single time he touches the ball, but it feels like there's just more of like, we need to be mad about something and we're going to direct it about Kyrie. We're more about just being mad like in person. It's not a good look, like, to be chanting "fuck you, Kyrie." One, when he's torching your team for 39 points, and two, when he's like, it's like the play in the game is not even about him. I'm fine with booing him. Like, that happens. Like, that's part of sports. That's like the theater of it all. But like, as soon as you like cross that line and start treating him like he's not a person, like, who else would you just be able to like throw a bottle at or like think that's acceptable behavior? It's just so. I think Kevin Durant said it the best: grow the fuck up. Like, it's just absolutely absurd. Now, the second thing that's really just disgusting about tonight is people are upset that Kyrie stepped on the logo apparently after the game. Not apparently, he did it. Grow up. It's some paint.
Why?
It's some paint on the floor. Like, why do you care about it? Like, it's like, that's part of the theater too. Like, people have been chanting "fuck you, Kyrie" for 2 hours, and he takes out a little frustration by stepping on like the left. It wasn't actually Lucky. It wasn't my guy Lucky, who made a brilliant comeback performance tonight to dunk at halftime. It's not like he hurt anyone. He stepped. He made an intentional step on some paint, and people are upset. Like, and then comparing the two, like there's some sort of equivalency, like both sides in it, like,
oh yeah,
classless, saying it's classless, but it's like, no, he stepped on, like, okay, it's mildly disrespectful to the leprechaun. Like, what are we talking about here? It's absolutely absurd.
It's the symbol of doing it to the Celtics franchise, and I do think like there's room to be mad at that, because like I think the franchise has for the most part handled his departure really well. Like, nobody says anything badly about him. Brad Stevens goes out of his way to say, you know, I don't have anything bad to say about Kyrie. He's a special talent, this and that. And so for him to do that, and I'm sure it was more toward the fans, more toward the crowd,
you're the one who's saying that he's disrespecting the franchise. It's what if he's just saying like it's a small fuck you to the 17,000 who said fuck Kyrie Irving for 3 hours straight. Like, what do we expect? And like I guess I can understand that, but like, as soon as you bring it up and be like and make the false equivalency,
there's no comparison. Obviously,
it's absolutely absurd. It's so I don't know. That's just like people just because like I didn't know people were so upset about the logo. Like one of my favorite sports memories. Remember T.O. when he's on the Niners and he scored all those touchdowns and would run immediately to the Star in Dallas and do his T.O. celebration? That's hilarious. That's fun. Like, that's part of sports. That's part of the game. Like, if Kyrie wants to do that, like, it's part of the theater of it all. And so I'm for it. Like, I guess I'm not for Kyrie stomping on it, but I just like don't know why people take it personally. It's not like he like took his shoes and like stomped on your couch with muddy shoes on. Like, it's nothing related to you.
Your couch.
He didn't do that. Like, he dropped 39 on you and then was just like, take that. Like, if he did like the WWE suck it, like, would people like, I don't like, it's all funny to me. Like, we hate Kyrie. Kyrie clearly doesn't like Boston or like the fans, and like that's part of the fun of it all. And then as soon as like, oh, he stepped on Lucky. Oh my God. Like, people have been running across that logo the entire game. It's absurd to me.
Yeah, it was great theater until someone threw a bottle. Stupid fans. That just no need for that. And it really does. Like, the crowd was awesome. The crowd was amped up. The environment was fantastic. I missed like hell having that many fans in TD Garden. Like, I'd almost forgotten how fun it was.
The first quarter
to have an atmosphere like that, and then
it was loud.
One idiot does that, and it just makes everybody look bad. So Thanks,
Thanks,
dumbass.
that guy. He's going to be banned for TD Garden for life. People will be like, he should be prosecuted. Let's go. Let's hold up there, everyone with their pro-carceral takes. Like we have rising prison populations. We don't need to be prosecutors, people, for things like that. But that's another story for another time. We need to wrap this podcast up, and so it's time for the world famous Potable Six Pack. I'm going to start out tonight, try to bring some positivity back into this podcast, back into some Celtics fandom. I thought it was really cool. The Celtics were back and the fans were there, and I thought there was a really cool moment. I think it was in between quarters, but the Celtics honoring Mike Gorman for making the Hall of Fame and the whole crowd giving him a standing ovation and turning to him in the stadium. I just thought it was a really cool moment. Mike Gorman's a legend. Anyway, like that's what people should be celebrating. It was just like that's cool about Celtics fandom is like everyone in unison just like saluting the guy who's been part of like the Celtics family for the past 30, 40 years at this point. I just forgot about like the power of like the 17,000 people being united in that and like celebrating one guy. I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. And well earned by Mike Gorman throughout an amazing career of announcing games. My first pick, Tristan Thompson, undoing Kevin Durant's shoelaces.
I did not see that.
It was, I don't even know if they showed it on the broadcast. It was incredible. It was after one of the timeouts, Durant was standing in the corner right in front of the Celtics bench, and Tristan went down and pretended like he was tying his own shoes so that the ref wouldn't notice that he actually untied Kevin Durant's shoes. There was just, he had the method to it. Like, he was J.R. Smith's teammate. You don't play alongside J.R. Smith and fail to come away with a master class in untying an opponent's shoelaces. So I enjoyed that. And then my second pick, KD talking shit again. KD talks a lot. I guess I never realized how much shit he talks, but he's gotten into it with a Celtics player in like basically every game. Marcus Smart like shoved him, was trying to shoo him away. He
kept talking. He doesn't stop talking.
I enjoyed that. But there was a moment like he and Tatum were going back and forth while Durant was at the free throw line. Durant really talks a lot, and I'm for it. I'm for all the beef I can get. I'm for all of that.
Then you should be for Kyrie stomping on the logo.
Yeah, but that like
next game, we're gonna show up and we're gonna burn a Coogee sweater just to disrespect Notorious B.I.G. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I don't think that would be.
No, that'd be
a
fucked
smart
up.
thing to do.
Coogee sweaters are expensive and very cool articles of clothing.
Yeah, your turn, sir.
I'm gonna go back to just the fans empowering the players. There's a moment in the first quarter where Tatum was going one-on-one in Durant and like beat him with a spin move, and the crowd started like cheering and it was like exploded up just in reaction to the spin move. And then it crescendoed when he did knock down the jumper. I just like forgot about that. The electricity in the first quarter was fantastic, and I just really liked that specifically. Like just cheering for the spin move alone, and then Tatum being able to knock down the jumper, I thought was cool. My final moment, I don't know. It's going to be tough. The Tatum picking up a tech after the possession, I thought was wild. Like I just had never really seen that before. Like
I love that by the ref. Actually,
it's smart continuation. It's like, but I was so taken aback by it because I just never had really encountered it.
Yeah, you don't want to stop transition to like basically reward the Celtics for getting a technical. So I like that they let the possession go on. I'm not sure Tatum deserved that technical foul, but the way that he did it, I appreciated. Is it my turn?
Yeah, no, I think I'm done. I got some honorable mentions, but I think maybe we'll see if you cover them in your final pick.
This is a tough call. There wasn't like a whole lot to really pick. What am I going with? Go with your honorable mention. I'll try to figure it out.
The Celtics blowing a 4-on-1 fast break, I thought
Romeo.
that was fantastic.
Pass the rock. Oh, I've got it. Jabari Parker's turnover at the top of the key when he was trying to isolate and just forgot the ball. Just forgot it. That was a moment when it was like, okay, Durant has scored basically every single time he is isolated at the top of the key. And then it's Jabari Parker just forgetting the basketball. So
it's a good pick.
There's a talent discrepancy, let's just say, between these two teams. And it was pretty noticeable on that one possession.
All right, my final one is that just Lucky the Leprechaun, the actual man, not the painted logo, came back and put on a dunk performance for the crowd. But he was without the JetBlue flight crew. He had to set up his own trampoline, all his own padding. It was just odd to see him do that. But he put on
friendly Lucky performance, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't. The JetBlue flight crew did not make the list of guys you get in the court.
Because you can let 17,000 people, but
you can't let people. You can't let the JDFC on the court. No, but I just wanted. It's good to see Lucky back out there, knocking down some dunks. You know, I got to chop it up with him because he was up on the 9th floor. Me and Lucky, we're strong. He wasn't upset about the floor stomping, so I don't actually know that. I was just rampant speculation there. But that's going to do it from us. We'll talk to you again after Game 5 on Tuesday night. Thanks to everyone watching on the YouTube, commenting, and everyone who listens to the podcast, giving us 5 stars, doing everything like that. Now, Jay, I have a question for you. Is Jabari Parker potable?
Yeah.
Anything is